Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I will be reviewing the PRIMA Confections Odyssey set. I actually got this with the terrain set, but this video is gonna be more focused on the Odyssey one. I will be comparing the color selection a bit later on. I got both of them for 1,500 pesos, and that's about 25 US dollars, so I think they're about mid-range price-wise when it comes to watercolors. But I want to talk about why I did get them, even though I said before that I didn't see myself reviewing any more watercolors, because I thought that it would be a waste to keep on buying more art supplies just so I could review them. But I did have to kind of get this one because my White Nights and my Snillier watercolors got moldy, and the reason why I love the PRIMA Confections is that they're always dry, and I don't really think that the watercolors that sort of stay wet perpetually are great for where I live in the Philippines, where it's just so humid. And also I just love the colors on them. The one thing with the Primas is that they have very interesting colors in their sets. These ones are just the watercolors that I would reach for if I think that I needed to see colors that would inspire me. I do also want to give a shout out to the unwrapping process of the colors, because it's almost one of my favorite parts when getting new watercolors. And especially with the PRIMA sets where the colors aren't always what you would expect. Because these colors are so dark and so intense, you almost don't see what they really look like unless you actually get to use them. So I had to do the swatches this time, and I want to talk about why I chose to talk about this set and not the terrain one. I honestly don't even know why I even bought the terrain one, because when you look at it now, there's so many greens to it, and I wouldn't even be mad at having multiple greens in a set, but for the terrain one, I just think that they're all too similar to each other, and I didn't really like that. I liked the colors that weren't the greens, but when I got to swatching the Odyssey set, all of those colors that I liked in the terrain set sort of just felt flat because of how intense the colors were on the Odyssey one. I think that they are just gorgeous. They even have colors that are sort of similar to each other, but I still liked both of them. So the first two ones are not that much different from each other. So Tokyo and Rome are both these intense, cool reds. Rome is just a little bit cooler than Tokyo and also a little bit darker than it. I did get to use both of them, and I think that I could use both of them in different cases. Amsterdam, I think, is just a basic but very dark and punchy purple. I actually think I would prefer the purple on the terrain one, and you can see it on the upper right corner of the video. I sort of like that one more because I think it's more interesting, but I do like how Amsterdam is just so dark, and I also liked using it for the dark shadows on my painting later on. The next one is Maui, and it's this beautiful, intense, and warm orange. I also got to use it a lot for my painting. Jordan is one of my favorite colors in this whole set. I just really love the sort of subtle purple undertones to it, but it still looks brown. It's weird because it turns out that most of my favorite colors are browns, which sounds really boring, but I just love all of the browns in this set. Number 78, Cusco, is just a warmer version of Jordan. It has a little bit more yellow to it, and I also like it in its own way. The next color is number 79, Dubai, and I think it's just a little bit redder than Cusco or Jordan, so it still looks brown, but it's just a redder version of that. The next one is number 80, Jamaica. This one is a very cool and intense green. I love this one so much. I just think it stands out in contrast to the reds and the browns of the set. The next one is number 81 London, and I also love this one because it's the only blue in the set, which I think is the only one that's needed. I don't really like sets that have too many blues. The next one is the only yellow in the set too, and it's Inca. What I have noticed is that Inca is the only one that's not rated 3 stars in light fastness. So first thing I did after doing the painting was actually switch out my Inca for one of the other colors that I have from the other brands. The next one in the set is number 83 Budapest, and this is actually my favorite color in the whole set. This color is what made me get the Odyssey set over the tropical set. I think it has a little bit more purple to it than Jordan. I think Jordan just looks more neutral when they're both side by side, but I love Budapest, and I already see myself taking this out of this set just so I can use it for my other paintings. That's how much I love this color. And the next one is a white. It's called Calgary. I think that the more I've grown and the more I've used gouache, the more I'm open to having a white in a watercolor set. I still don't like white in a basic set, so watercolor sets that have more of the primary colors I think shouldn't have white in them. But for novelty sets like this one, I love that there's a white in here, and I also did end up using it a lot in my painting. So now we're gonna use the set for a painting, and the photo that I'm painting right now is of DDETS on Instagram. I will have her Instagram linked in the description, but I just love this photo of her. It has a lot of blacks to it, which I actually think would work if I replaced those with the darker colors in my set. It has very strong shadows too, and what I'm doing is just putting the very warm and intense colors that I have in the set and using that to paint the shadowed parts of her face, and then using the cooler browns and the cooler colors to offset those colors that are on her. I'm also painting on Fabriano watercolor paper, which I just think oddly works well with the PRIMA watercolors. I don't know why in my head I just pair them together. I don't really like using my PRIMA watercolors for my other papers. I just think that the intense colors of the PRIMA and also its consistency, it's sort of a little bit more chalky than the other watercolors I have. I think it works well with very rough watercolor paper. And the chalkiness is also one thing that I noted when I first watched reviews on the PRIMA watercolors. I used to watch a lot of Juicy Ink's videos on them, and that's actually what got me to try the watercolors finally. But she mentioned it in one of her videos, and she did show how you can actually see the chalkiness in the texture of the pans, and I thought that was just so off-putting while I was watching her video. But when it came to actually using the watercolors, I actually ended up liking how the pants looked and how I could lift colors off of that. I think it may have something to do with my other watercolors being so different that actually using the PRIMA and its weird textures has made me like it because it's different. But yeah, it is something to make note of. I don't think I've tried any watercolors that feel the same way as the PRIMA does. There were a lot of times while I was still painting her that it felt like the colors might be too intense, and I was sort of kicking myself for making the colors that's falling on her too dark. And especially with those very intense reds and oranges, it's sort of very easy to overuse them. But I think as soon as I started putting in the dark background was when it did start to make more sense, and it did sort of even out the intense colors that's hitting her. So it wasn't until that I felt like the painting was finally working. But even while I was doubting myself, I was sort of in the space where I almost didn't care how the painting would look after. I was just enjoying using the watercolors so much. But yeah, it did work out as soon as I put in the background, which is, by the way, different. Sort of the different colors I put in. I think I mixed the green in with the reds too to get almost like a black on some areas. So the background isn't just all one color, it's a mix of all the different darks that I have on the set. I used Budapest a lot for her shirt, just so it has this sort of dark but still colorful tones to it. I just love this color so much. And I also like how the Budapest and Maui blends into each other. They're both very intense colors, but Budapest is just more neutral because it's brown, and so I just like how these two look next to each other. I think they complement each other really well. I did still use Inca for sort of the lighter parts of the piece, but I wasn't really as inspired by Inca as a lot of the other colors. I think the only thing I would do with the color selection in the set is to change the warm yellow that the Inca is for something that's a little bit cleaner and maybe something like a lemon yellow. Or it could even still be a warm yellow, just not this warm. But yeah, that's the only thing I would say about this whole color selection. I think that the Odyssey is my favorite set out of all 4 of the PRIMA confection sets that I've tried. So I've tried the complexions one, which is my least favorite because I think that it has a lot of warm browns in there, but not really enough sort of cooler, darker browns. My next least favorite one is Terrain, just because of how many very similar colors there are, and there's just so many greens to that. And also, there's not that much shifts in the undertones of the greens to make them look different from each other. It does have one color that I really love, and that is the purple one. The blue in that set I also love too, but I just don't think that it was how much you pay for the whole set is worth it if it's just a couple of colors in that set you like. And then my second favorite one is the Essence one, which I just have a lot of colors in there that are just so stand out. Adore and Earth especially still one of my favorite colors out of all the watercolors I have. I think Adore just might be overthrown by Budapest now. But yeah, Essence is still a great set. It also has this amazing emerald green in it, which is a standout in all of the other sets that I've tried. But it is just still my second favorite, just for the reasons that I think that as a whole set, Odyssey has more colors that I would love more. And it also has colors that I would use on a regular basis compared to the Essence ones, which I think is just a great novelty set. But Odyssey for me has more of the colors that I would use in most of my watercolor paintings. And I'm also really excited to use it for my portrait paintings, which is what I normally do. I'm already thinking about painting portraits with these 3 browns, and I can see them working for the different shifts in undertones that usually comes with portrait paintings. That might be a more personal reason why, but yeah. That is it for my review on the PRIMA Confections Odyssey set. I think I've talked enough in this video. I think I might edit myself out later on because I can already see the voiceover is 30 minutes long, but that is it for this one. Thank you guys for watching and for making it this far. Thank you for my patrons for supporting me. And if you guys want to see more paintings in real time, I do post them a lot on my Patreon, so I will have that link in the description too. That is it for this one. Thank you guys for watching. I will be seeing you guys again soon.